Somewhere between the stones and the faded photographs lies a secret yet untold. As we wander through ancient cities and gaze upon their historic landmarks, we may not realize that we are walking upon a memory they wished us to forget. And when we ask, who built these monuments? How could they have raised them in an age that knew neither electricity nor modern machinery? At that moment, guides step forth with explanations of what we see and how it came to be. We believe them, yet deep within us stirs a feeling that something is amiss, a hidden truth, though it stands before our very eyes, a lost history. When we stand before a grand structure such as the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, for instance, the same question echoes within. How is this made? But the noise of the scene and the hum of the crowd may prevent us from asking it with sincerity. Yet if we were to gaze upon the pale stones with quiet contemplation, we would sense that what we behold is not merely a tourist monument, but a witness to another era, one whose chapters were never fully written. Behind that arch, perhaps, lies the secret. In its shadows, the true story of those who built it, and why they wished their edifice to stand, defying oblivion. We stand before the Arc de Triomphe as if it were reciting the chapters of a mysterious history, while around us people lift their phones to capture fleeting moments of admiration. The scene appears ordinary, convincingly real, dulling the faint spark of doubt within us. Before the place fills once more with new tourists and restless noise, we surrender to the illusion of clarity and whisper to ourselves, surely, they must have built it, it stands right before us. Yet something deep inside murmurs, do we truly see the truth, or only what we have been told to believe? Perhaps this stems from the fact that during all our years of schooling, we were rarely shown old photographs of the grand cities scattered across the world. And perhaps there was a reason for that. For had we seen such images in our childhood, when our nature was still pure and unspoiled, and beheld primitive Victorian people, small as insects, standing amid towering, magnificent architecture beyond description, doubt would surely have crept into our minds. We would have asked, how could these primitive men, with their humble carriages and horses, have built such majestic wonders? But since no one wished us to ask, we were simply never shown. Not until we had grown, our instincts dulled by indoctrination and our sight dimmed by deception, did those images resurface, revealing that the stories we were given were carefully chosen to shape an artificial history concealing the truth. We were raised on ready-made answers, on packaged tales repeated like incantations, until we forgot how to think, how to doubt. Yet when those old photographs returned to light, they struck us like a slap, awakening something within, something that had long slept beneath the rubble of silence and deceit. They say the Arc de Triomphe is composed of 36,695 cubic meters of limestone, weighing 95,407 tons. Its construction, they add, lasted 12 years in two phases, the first from 1806 to 1814, and the second from 1832 to 1836. But how could such an immense quantity of limestone have been transported using the horse-drawn carriages we see in old photographs? Take a closer look at the four sculptures adorning the sides of the arch. Observe the precision of the carvings and the perfect symmetry of the ornate patterns that frame it. Every detail is flawlessly repeated without the slightest deviation, as though its creator were not a human being but a delicate machine, measuring perfection by a standard unknown to us. The stones align in wondrous harmony. The angles meet as if carved with an engineering mastery surpassing what is taught today in the finest academies. How could they, in what we call a primitive age, have produced such architectural harmony? Remember, the first true electrical machine was not invented until 60 years after the completion of this arch. And yet, we are told it was sculpted by hand. Could that truly be possible? Then look upward. At the ceiling of the arch, three-dimensional floral engravings, executed with astonishing geometric precision and perfect symmetry. The delicacy, refinement, and fluid grace of the carvings ascend to such a height of artistry that the beholder stands transfixed in reverent wonder. Now, let us wander through the rest of Paris during that same period. Once again, we find a wealth of breathtaking architecture, towering, colossal, almost impossible in scale. Do you notice how the city's infrastructure appears grand and majestic, while its inhabitants and their means of transport remain primitive, giving no hint of the sophistication needed to build a metropolis of such magnificence? The streets are unpaved, uneven, muddy, and filthy, a contrast that deepens the disparity of the urban landscape. When we examine more photographs from that era, we see, by contrast, buildings that match their people, simple in design, rough in texture, awkward in proportion, built from wood and plaster, showing the clear imprint of human hands rather than the precision of machines. That precisely is the architectural style one would expect from the age of horses and carriages, a generation familiar with fire, oil, hammer, and nail, yet ignorant of the technological secrets that would come later, or perhaps had once existed long before. Thus, this stark contrast between architectural styles of the same era must draw our attention to one truth: that architecture, in essence, mirrors humanity and reflects its level of advancement. If we return to the Arc de Triomphe, we find that by the time this photograph was taken, nearly 40 years had passed since its completion. Yet look closely at its surface. How worn some parts appear, how clear the marks of erosion stand, suggesting that the arch is far older than the official history would have us believe. Now let us travel once more, this time to Moscow in the late 19th century, where the inhabitants seem finally to have left their homes and filled the streets. The famed Red Square teems with life, and in the scene rise the majestic silhouettes of St. Basil's Cathedral and the Spasskaya Tower, dominating the horizon. The construction of St. Basil's Cathedral began in 1555 and was completed in 1561, a mere 6 years. In 1737, it suffered a great fire, after which restoration took 20 years. Built in 6, restored in 20, most curious indeed. Yet look at it now. What manner of edifice is this? It seems almost otherworldly, without equal on earth. Thousands of red bricks and tin plates came together to form those distinctive onion-shaped domes. How did they master metal with such delicacy and perfection in the 18th century? And if they possessed such skill and precision to construct a wonder like this, why were the streets around it so crude, so covered in mud? Nor is Moscow alone in this mystery. We see such astonishing monuments in 19th century photographs from every corner of the world. Take, for example, the Crystal Palace in London, a vast structure of glass built before the invention of automated glass production. There's also Westminster Abbey and the Houston Arch, erected from pure sandstone in 1837, while the surrounding streets, once again, remain unpaved and mired in mud. Then why did these people not give priority to the very streets they walked upon? Look at the Frauenkirche in Dresden, Germany. Gaze upon that magnificent, resplendent dome whose grandeur stands in stark contrast to the rickety horse-drawn carriages and the simple, modest lives of the people beneath it, who appear as a population sustained only by bare necessities, dwarfed by the immensity and majesty of the architecture above them. And then there is the Library of Parliament in Ottawa, Canada, whose construction spanned 17 years. The first settlers arrived around 1800, and the city's population at the time did not exceed 20,000. Was such a lavish, opulent library truly a priority for those people? And why does the building appear as though a fragment of Europe had been plucked and set down upon Canadian soil? Even at the dawn of the 20th century, some 40 years before the Bosch company developed the modern electric machine, we find the old Pennsylvania station in New York. Look at its immense scale, at those dimensions that defy reason. Do not be deceived by the photograph. We may think the ornaments and carvings are small, yet each octagonal motif carved into the vaulted ceiling is larger than a human being. Observe also the colossal columns, the intricate decorative details, and the ornate capitals crowning them. They say the construction of this station took only 6 years. 6 years? Are we truly that naive, that gullible? Even today, with all our modern machinery, prefabricated materials, and advanced crane technology, we could not recreate such a masterpiece of architecture. In fact, in our modern age, we do not build in this style at all. It is worth noting that the official liars of our world have coined an umbrella term for these architectural styles that we see across North America. They call it historicism, a term coined to describe an architectural style based on revival, the imitation of forms from bygone eras. As though those who could not even light their own streets had somehow managed to construct such monumental structures by merely imitating the architectural methods of the ancients. The grand arches and massive column buildings we see were said to be built in the classical or Greco-Roman style. The cathedrals, meanwhile, followed the Renaissance and Gothic styles of medieval Europe. These architectural forms included towering palaces, arched windows, watchtowers, domes, vaulted galleries, statues, colossal doors, circular geometric windows, pillars, giant clocks, and bell towers. Such impossible relics of architecture exist quite literally in every city across our world today. Some still stand, preserved through time, like the Arc de Triomphe and Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, while others have vanished into oblivion, like the Houston Arch and the old Pennsylvania station. And while we, the people of the present, travel great distances to capture photographs of these marvels as keepsakes, the photographers of the 19th century did the same. Yet, unknowingly, they gifted us something far greater than they ever imagined offering to future generations. They granted us a lens through which we could witness a primitive people standing against a backdrop of impossibly advanced architecture. Despite the narratives fed to us by official historians, tales of Darwinian evolution and linear progress through the ages, where each generation was supposedly more advanced than the last, we find before our eyes a contradiction too glaring to ignore. For if the pinnacle of progress for the people of the 19th century was the horse and carriage, then these monuments, this entire architectural style, could not possibly have been the work of those who lived centuries before them. Anyone capable of thought or curiosity can sense, at a glance upon these old photographs, that something is profoundly wrong, a fracture in the accepted historical narrative where numbers fail to align with reason. Take, for instance, a panoramic photograph of San Francisco captured in 1877. We see a city vast in scale, astonishing in its breadth, a fusion of historic architecture, palatial facades adorned with columns, and cathedral domes rising into the skyline in Gothic splendor. Yet we are told that in 1846, the area now known as San Francisco was home to fewer than 500 Mormon settlers, a near-empty frontier awaiting the hands that would claim it. Then, between 1848 and 1849, with the onset of the California gold rush, the population supposedly surged to 25,000. And in only 28 years more, by the time the panoramic photograph was taken, the city's population had reached nearly 200,000. Who could possibly believe such a tale? Does this look to you like a city of 200,000 inhabitants, built without modern technology, without sources of energy, without machinery, without electric engines? Is it conceivable that a group of settlers in a strange, uninhabited land, still in the infancy of their development, could have erected such a city in only 30 years? Look again at that eerie stillness, that profound silence. It is an image of an utterly empty city. Where did the people go? The shadow cast by the column in the photograph tells us it is not early morning. Such short shadows appear only at midday. Can it be that a city of this vastness stands lifeless at noon, with no human being in sight, only a lone, untethered horse, the sole trace of life? Surely it is far-fetched to imagine that the townsfolk had been ordered to remain indoors merely because a photograph was being taken. And when we begin to connect the threads, we find that during nearly the same decades of the 19th century, photographs reveal Russian, European, and American cities, all equally devoid of people. Then, only a few years later, we see the very same places teeming with life, bustling with motion, inhabited by peoples who appear wholly incapable of constructing the majestic architecture surrounding them. These images speak to us with startling clarity. The narrative we have been given is not the truth. No account, no matter how official or well-documented, should be accepted if it defies reason. The people we see in those photographs and their forebears could not possibly have built the architecture we behold. It is, quite simply, impossible. So then who built it? When and how? Let us venture deeper into these cities, for surely there are clues waiting to be uncovered, fragments that may help us understand why these places were emptied of their original inhabitants, and from where their later population suddenly emerged. Within the silent walls lie hidden secrets. Beneath the ruins, traces of a civilization deliberately erased, submerged in the waters of forgetfulness. And yet, perhaps, as we wander through the narrow alleys of old cities, we may begin to glimpse the strands of the story and discover that what we once deemed impossible was merely a missing chapter in the history of humankind. But wait, do you wish to wipe the mud from your boots after walking through those mire-laden streets? Don't bother. That very mud, in fact, may hold a crucial key to understanding what truly happened in that forgotten age.